Hello and welcome to Getaway Day. My name is Gautam. His name is Mason.
Where?
And it is the 4th of May. And we're going to be talking about the baseball.
The baseball.
The baseball.
There's something about the 4th of May. Oh yeah, it's the Eve of Cinco de Mayo.
Yes.
That's what it is.
May the 4th be with you.
Wait, hold on. No, I don't. I didn't approve a Star Wars reference here.
Oh, sorry. Let me retract that.
Thank you.
Cinco de Mayo Eve.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
Star Trek and Cinco de Mayo Eve only.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
All
All
right.
right, so we've got a number of different topics, from an interesting story about the buffer zone of the strike zone, um, our a number of like young pitchers that have been struggling, injuries, and then some happenings in Rangers and Orioles land. But we want to start our show off today with some transaction news that Ryan Loutos has been traded from the Cardinals to the Dodgers for cash.
So very, very upsetting for me to see Ryan no longer in the Cardinals org, but he's going over to the Dodgers. He's already been put on the roster there in Oklahoma City. We wish Ryan the best of luck out there, and hopefully at some point maybe he'll come back and share some of the experience with us. So
yeah. I mean, getting traded is a pretty crazy thing. That doesn't happen in other industries where you have to uproot your life and go move to a different city and
in like 2 days.
In like 2 days. And
yeah.
Go to your new job and meet all new people. So best of luck to him. And from my perspective, like the fact that the Dodgers are taking a chance on this guy, world-class organization that that says that that this guy, he can have a future in the game, and he's gonna play a part on the Dodgers, I believe, this year. Yeah. Otherwise, they're not making this move.
So when the Cardinals originally DFA'd him to make room for Jose Barrero, I was not confident that he was necessarily going to get picked up by someone else and that he would stay in the organization, just no longer on the 40-man. The fact that the Dodgers took a flyer on him to keep him on their 40-man roster goes to show that they do think he has talent that they can unlock and help him get to the next level. And Ryan, if you've watched him pitch, incredibly talented guy. 6'5", like he's a big dude. He can throw. And the Dodgers are one of the best organizations at helping some of these guys that seem to go under the radar or unnoticed on other clubs and helping them unlock their potential. And so I'm really excited to see what the Dodgers can do with him to help him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 40-man roster. That's a big deal for the Dodgers because a lot of other teams talk about like their 40-man crunch, but the Dodgers are one of the few teams that I believe actually have that crunch. They have so many talented players. It becomes challenging to like fit them all on a roster, and they have to make hard decisions a lot of times, let guys go, and they're taking a chance on Ryan. So
yeah,
good for them. And
so they brought in both Ryan and JP Fireeisen, I believe, to fill a couple spots from guys going to the 60-day IL.
Yep.
So they're filling some long-term needs here is kind of what I'm seeing based off that. So incredibly excited. I can't wait to see him hopefully get the call to come up and pitch for the Dodgers. That'd be sweet.
Yes, it would.
So.
Okay, let's move on here to a very interesting story that came out last week about how umpires are being graded. So there's no technical change to the rules, and that's why this is sort of flown under the radar. But basically, the way umpires had previously for a long time been graded was based on a buffer zone that was 2 inches outside the defined strike zone. So if they made a call that was within that buffer zone, they would not get penalized, I guess, or dinged in their scoring. And for 2025, that buffer zone has now shrunk down from 2 inches outside the strike zone to 0.75 inches. So effectively 60% less buffer zone in terms of area, and it's resulting in a lot less strikes being called because the strike zone itself has not changed, but the people making the calls are now being judged in a different way, and that's driving different behavior from the umpires, where they've begun to call a tighter strike zone, and it's just one way that I guess things are harder for pitchers this year.
Yeah, so it's still your basically shoulders to knees. The width of the plate is the defined strike zone, and it seems just watching games, you would always see these what seemed to be egregious strike calls that were nowhere near the plate. If it even so much as cut the plane of 2 inches off the plate, it would be called a strike more often than not, a pitcher's pitch, if you will. And there's some umpires who had a tighter zone than others in the past, and now with this change being made, umpires, the scoring that they get for each game goes towards postseason assignments. It goes towards, are you going to get fired, and all these things. So it's really really important for an umpire to be aware of what they are and aren't being graded on. And so now these pitches having to be an inch and a quarter closer to the plate now, that's pretty significant. And that's around all four sides of the zone. So you're not seeing as many low strikes, you're not seeing as many inside or outside strikes, and you're actually seeing more balls called in the strike zone now, which has been a little bit weird. And it is one of those that it makes it seem like perhaps it is benefiting the hitters more, which yes, it is. But at the same time, this is kind of one of those things that is gonna have to happen anyway
Yeah,
because
so I guess I wanted to share like one. This is like a non-controversial fact from the story. There's more correct calls than ever before. That it's the highest rate of correct strikes and balls that we've ever seen in Statcast era since 2015. So that is a direct effect of this change to the buffer zone. But what that means for hitters and pitchers, I think it's like um, it's unusual because it's such a, to me it seems like a kind of drastic change that has happened.
it is, and it's a drastic change that is a necessary one given what they're going to try and move towards here in the next couple years, which is some kind of challenge automatic ball strike system, that they
Yeah.
were testing out in spring training. Well, when you do that, the computer is going to be, there's no buffer zone. It's a
Right.
strike or it's not. And
It's a
so
bridge. This is
yeah,
the bridge to that.
this is the bridge, and I think that's perfectly reasonable, and I think it's the right thing to do. What's weird and what's making everybody upset is that this is a change that was approved in the umpire CBA, and supposedly Major League Baseball had told the clubs, but
Yeah.
none of the players on any of these clubs were aware of this change in how balls and strikes were going to be called. They were expecting it to be the same zone as it always has been after spring training and those ABS games were done. They thought it was going to go back to normal, and then it didn't.
Yeah, no, that's the part that I take offense with because like why are they shrouding this? Why are they trying to keep this under wraps? They should have been really clear that this was happening. Everybody should have known, even though from their perspective it's not technically a rules change. It's just the way that the umps are graded, but it's clearly having an impact, and it's having probably the impact that they desired because they wanted more correct strike calls. They wanted a tighter zone that is going to reflect the future, um, either challenge system or full ABS that might happen down the line.
Yeah, and so like I said, I have no problem with the change itself. My
Okay.
problem is with all the communication around it because
Yeah.
fans had no idea until about a week ago. And I think it was Yankees broadcasts and a couple others were just telling these stories about their catchers like having conversations between innings with umps, and the umps going, "What do you think of the new strike zone?
And they're like, "What?
What do you
What?
mean new
What
strike
is?"
zone?"
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is just another bungled communications issue
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
by the Manfred administration. Like, I don't
Right.
know how else to describe that. Like, the league knew, the umpires knew, so it seems like the owners probably knew because didn't they have to agree on that CBA with the umpires?
Yeah. You would think, right?
So why did none of the owners tell their own clubs?
Yeah.
It
It's
it just
bizarre.
doesn't make any sense.
No, it does not.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Can't really change
But
it now.
ultimately, I guess the beyond the communication issues and things like that, it seems like it's a net positive because we're getting more calls right, and it's going to be more um, similar to what we're going to see with the challenge system, where that zone is more true to the book. There's no buffer zone. I mean, what would happen? I'm going to ask you this question. What would happen if there was no buffer zone for the umpires? What if they were just graded on the true strike zone? I mean, it's not like that's any different in my opinion. It's just they're all being graded the same way. It's
Yeah.
consistent. Why do they need a buffer zone at all?
Well, and I kind of get having a buffer zone because it is something that is very like a quarter inch by eye when something's coming at you at 95 mile an hour is very hard to tell. 2 inches, pretty easy to tell. Why the buffer zone was that big, I have no idea. It should have never been that big. It should have been the human eye can distinguish this at this speed. So the
Mhm.
buffer zone is going to be one standard deviation, half inch, 3/4 of an inch around. That's fine because if you have a pitch that misses by 3/4 of an inch and you call it, me as a hitter, I'm going to have a hard time arguing that with you because that's pretty close. 2 inches, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
so I don't know
yeah.
why we
No.
did it that way in the past, but I do understand the buffer zone because, like, the best umpire in the world isn't going to be able to get every call, which is why we have the buffer zone because you don't want to take the best guy in the world and say that he's only 60% correct. I mean,
If he had a
maybe,
day where he missed a bunch of calls by like a half inch or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No,
and
I guess that makes a lot of sense.
well, and depending on the pitchers too, like this is a change that's going to very much affect one style of pitcher, and that is going to be your uh, Eric Fetty had problems with it today, but it's these guys who they pick at the corners. They don't have entirely overpowering stuff, but they will try and pinpoint you on the corners and try and get you to miss it, or get the called strikes. Those are the guys that are now going to struggle because what used to be a strike for them is now no longer going to be a strike. And they have to hit that corner even more perfect, even more over the heart of the plate. And that's potentially going to lead to them dealing more damage. So there's this is going to be a change for guys like that. And I don't
Yeah.
know how that's going to go. So
Some of
you're
the
going to,
other
oh, I was just
the
going to say,
early returns.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, you're going to see more like Miles Michaelis's that constantly pound the strike zone and then get taken yard a lot.
Yeah. No, that you're exactly right because now pitchers almost have to work closer to the zone because they know they're not going to get calls that they may have gotten in the past. And um, right now, early returns say that it's not like affecting big picture like walk rate. The walk rate in the league is still basically what it's always been. It's like 9%. So pitchers are compensating by throwing more pitches in the zone, and maybe those are getting crushed or whatever, but it's not resulting in like more walks overall just because the zone is smaller than before.
Yeah. So, but it's definitely an interesting change, and I'm curious to see what'll happen kind of moving forward, because there's basically two ways that you can get around this change. You be a huge stuff guy, that you're
Yeah.
like a Paul Skeens, where your slider and your sweeper move so much that it's gonna be outside the zone. Everyone knows it's gonna be outside the zone, but you're gonna trick everyone into swinging anyway. That'll be effective. And then guys that can overpower you with insane high heat, those will be the guys that'll be able to be effective
Also, Paul
throwing
Skeens.
in the zone. Yeah, also Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're like these guys that have just a little bit of movement and pick the corner. They're really going to struggle here until they can figure out a new way to, essentially, a new meta for the strike zone. So,
Yeah, and kind of related is something I was thinking about when I read this story, that minor leaguers, they've been dealing with very weird changes to their own strike zones because they've used, I don't know if they're still doing this today, but last year they were doing half the week with full ABS, and then the weekend I think with the challenge system. So even like from beginning to the end of the week, they would have a different strike zone to deal with. If you're a hitter, if you're a pitcher, you've got different criteria for what is a strike. And then you come to the major leagues and you've got something totally different too. So it's just, it has effects on player development too when things are always changing and there's no real consistency.
yeah. Now, I will say, from that standpoint, I think we're going to get to the point where it's quite a bit more consistent, because we're having some of these young umpires who have only ever been with the challenge system and the ABS, and they're so used to seeing this zone and they know exactly where that zone is, the textbook rule book strike zone. So now those guys coming up to the majors, they do have that smaller zone, a little bit more consistent with what these changes are. So having those younger umps is going to help, and having these younger players who've always pitched to the smaller zone, it's not like you're trying to pitch to a smaller zone in the majors. If anything, you're pitching to a bigger zone and you have more leeway. Um, but if you're effective in the strike zone, then you'll probably be okay. So I don't see that being an issue so much. What will be an issue is what you were kind of telling me about earlier with the ball.
The ball, yeah. So the ball is different between the majors and the minors. All the minors use one ball, and I guess the main reason that I've read is for why they do this is because they actually save a little bit of money. They save like $2 million a year on baseballs. They go to the minor leagues by not using like the major league ball consistently. That seems like a drop in the bucket for the league. So I don't get that, but I mean they like to save money.
Yeah, I don't get that either. But
And then the characteristics of the ball in the minor leagues is a lot easier to spin.
was going to say
So
it has higher seams, doesn't it?
yes, yep, it's got higher seam, so it moves a lot more. It's higher spin rates, and as you're kind of tracking minor league pitchers, and now we've got so much data on pitchers, we can see how their pitches are moving before they make the majors. We know more about minor league pitchers than ever before, and then they're getting to the majors, and their stuff is playing a lot differently. There's a great video by Lance Brozdowski that I would recommend that everybody checks out, where he looks at specific guys that were in the minors. They showed these characteristics on their pitches, and then they tried to throw the same pitch in the majors, and they moved with totally different horizontal and vertical break to the point where they were almost like totally different pitches than what they were throwing the minors just because of the ball. And that's very interesting to me. It's just, it must be so hard because you're facing even better competition, and you've got to change to the ball to deal with if you're a young guy.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the moral of the story for this week specifically. There's been quite a few guys come up making their major league debut or making like their second or third start, and they're getting rocked in their first start.
Yep.
And like, yeah, you have some guys that come out and have a phenomenal first start. The guy from the Royals last week through
Yep.
6 hitless innings. Noah something.
Yep. Noah Cameron. He made a spot start for Cole Reagans earlier in the week, and he did really well. He got into the 7th inning with a no hitter. They sent him right back down. Maybe I don't know. It was definitely a surprising start, but yeah, that's not the norm because we saw some other debuts this week. We saw Chase Petty of the Reds.
Yep,
He got crushed.
2 1/3, gave up 9 runs on 7 hits, 2 homers. And then today for the Mets, Blade Tidwell made his major league debut, and he did not fare terribly well either. Let me get his line pulled up here. It was like 3 2/3, 6 runs on 9 hits. So better than Petty fared, but still not exactly a strong outing there. Not what you're looking for in your debut when you're Tidwell or the Mets, really, at that point. So
Yeah, it's the ball remains continues to be a topic, and it's going to continue being one when things seem to change every year. There's also some information about the drag on the ball that's apparently higher, as high as it's been since like 2016, which was kind of a mini like dead ball year. So once again,
I was watching one of Trevor May's YouTube videos here this week, and it was one where he just wanted people to give their like biggest baseball hot takes, and then he was going to react to them. And someone said their hot take is the ball is different this year, and then he just, what? The ball is different?
I don't think that's even a hot take.
Yeah, the ball has always been the same. But yeah, no, it's
changing.
There's definitely something going on, and I really wish they'd just be consistent so that you have guys that like the different levels should just be the more talented and complete players move up, and you shouldn't like hamstring them by going, okay, now you've made it to the majors, nothing's the same, good luck.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think about me and you going down to Costa Rica and working on quality control for the baseballs?
I'm in.
I'd do it. I'd do it for the league.
Can we mud the balls too?
Yeah, we'll mud them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like go down to that. I can't even remember where the river's at, but that specific river, get the mud.
Is it like South American river?
No, I thought it was I thought the mud was from somewhere here in the States.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. I don't remember where though.
Yeah. But I think
it's all very secretive, and it's it's a handmade process, so that is very likely driving the tolerances there, and it's hard to be consistent when it's made by hand. So they do have a hard problem on their hands, but they got to get it together.
Yeah. I mean, why do they have to be handmade?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I would argue that a machine made, if you make the machine high enough quality, would be better.
There's got to be a machine that can do that, right?
Oh, there are machines that make baseballs. Like that's how high school baseballs are made.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know why Major League Baseball seems to think that theirs have to be handmade. Maybe it's tradition.
It might be, yeah. They've always done it this way. They don't want to change that.
And honestly, that's fine if that's what it is, but let's just be open and honest with everybody and not keep it a secret. Like if we want to keep it handmade because it's a higher quality product than being rolled off a machine, like there's a reason that there's hand stitched seats and Bugattis versus just machine made seats for a $5 million car. It's
Mhm.
higher
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah,
But
and that might be the case, and I guess the part that we don't have any information on is minor league balls made in China, and does that have even worse manufacturing tolerances than the major league ball? Possibly.
that's interesting. I think we should get jobs with Major League Baseball and be in their R&D department.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
We should do it. I honestly, we both could
Yeah.
with our
Yeah.
backgrounds. I think we'd fit. So, uh, all right.
Okay.
What else we
So
got?
that's the ball. That's the strike zone. We got all kinds of stuff going on. We've also got injuries all around the league. It seems like always at this time of year, there's just full injured lists. Most injuries in the most injury filled month of the season is April. So now here we are in early May, and the lists are getting filled up. Talk about some of the key guys that have gone down in the last week or so. Jazz Chisholm, uh, oblique. It was like a high grade oblique strain. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks, and that seems optimistic because these oblique injuries can tend to last for a while. And unfortunate because Jazz has had so many different injuries over his career, and this is just one more for the list.
Yeah, and another guy that's kind of in that same boat here. The Angels, for yet another year, have both Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout on the IL at the same time. They're two biggest contracts. Trout is out with a knee contusion. I honestly don't know how he got it. I don't think he was hit by pitch, was he?
They were saying it as a bone bruise, right?
Yeah, it's a bone bruise, but he was playing, and in the fourth inning, he kind of pulled up lame on a dead sprint to first to try and beat out an infield single, then went out and played the outfield, and then his next AB, or I guess next AB would have been in the fourth inning. Then they pinch hit for him.
Yeah.
So
Well, this
it
is the
was one of
same
those
knee
that,
that was surgically repaired, so it's very likely related to that.
oh, that's true, that's possible. Although they don't really expect Trout to be out for an extended period of time, I don't think.
Oh, you've heard this before. This has happened with the same guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I don't
I
know,
don't know.
man.
It's very interesting what Trout, I mean, this has been the story with Trout for now a long time. He's dealt with these injuries and hasn't been able to recover from them really fast. And he's clearly a different player than he was in the past too. It's like he's like a power first guy that
I have an idea.
yeah.
I'm gonna call Rob Manfred. I'm gonna see if we could get a one player exemption to the ban on anabolic steroids. We're gonna give them to Trout to heal him up, get him back on the field.
I
Who
like
says
it.
no?
And probably Manfred, but I
Tatis
don't.
Tatis would be in. Jurickson
Yeah.
Profar would be in.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds would sure as hell be in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. Well, another guy who's always injured, Tyler Glasnow, unfortunately, is dealing with some. What is he dealing with?
Glasnow shoulder inflammation.
Shoulder inflammation, and then they shut him down for 10 to 14 days, I think, from throwing. And we'll see if it's something more severe. But if you remember, at the end of last year, he missed basically the last month plus with elbow injury. I think he had a sprained elbow, and somehow he was okay. Who knows if some sort of compensation in his mechanics to keep his elbow healthier has now resulted in another part of his arm being more hurt, his shoulder.
Yeah, and then the last one here. This is the worst injury of the group by far.
Yeah.
Tristan Casas on think yesterday, right?
I think Friday.
Friday. He ended up rupturing his patellar tendon. So he's getting knee surgery. He is out for the rest of the 2025 season. And this is a guy who has been, um, he hasn't really had his true breakout yet. He had a solid 2023, and then 24 was okay. And this year he was starting out kind of rough. But he's one of those players that when he's right, and if he kind of started to turn back towards that 2023 direction, was going to be a huge piece of this Red Sox team this year. A masher at first base, and now they've lost him for the season, and it kind of helps, I think, with the lineup card a little bit, because heck, maybe they'll try and put Devers at first now. It'd be a terrible idea, but they might do it. So it also opens up for when Yoshida comes back. It does help that a little bit because Yoshida was a full-time DH last year, and they were telling him he's going to have to play in the outfield. Well, now you can put somebody at first base, and that's going to help clear that up a little bit. So,
and their lineup has a lot of really good pieces, and with the guys coming back, they truly had a bit of a logjam. And Costas had not produced this year. He looked pretty bad. I think he had like 3 homers and striking out a ton.
3 homers, 24% K rate, which is actually fairly decent.
I thought it was
for
like
him.
way higher than that, but okay.
No, but he's only hitting 182.
Yeah. So whatever changes he made to kind of get better contact were not really working out because he
only had 1 season out of his 4 that he's not been at the 24% K rate, and that was last year. So last year was kind of the fluke. But yeah, he wasn't able to make good contact.
Yeah.
So he was putting the bat on the ball more, but just really poor quality of contact. So, but yeah, that's rough to see for a 25-year-old though, to rupture his patellar tendon and be out for a season when this was the year that I think everyone was expecting it to finally click. So,
and he missed a ton of time last year with a really bad rib injury. So now it's like back-to-back years where he's had really bad injuries, and that could hamper him going forward, even though he is still pretty young.
Yeah. So,
some interesting Rangers news. Jake Berger, in a surprise, got optioned to the minors. I didn't even know he had an option left, and he just has not really hit with the Rangers this far. And they're saying it's a kind of a short-term reset type thing, and I believe that, but it's always shocking when you see a guy that's been a major leaguer for a while get sent back down, and usually that means something's off, like mechanically, or just something's not quite right, and they're trying to get him back to where he was like in the second half last year, and kind of the masher that he's been in the past with this reset.
Yeah. And the Rangers though are just going through something right now. They placed Leody Taveras on outright waivers about 2 hours ago. So is that the same as a DFA, or is that separate?
I think there might be some small difference.
I think one of them is that you can put them into your minor league system, and one of them is like a full release. Is that right?
I think he could still pass through if he passes through waivers, and they've still got him.
See, for some reason I thought that this one would be if you pass through, then you were a free agent.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah.
So, but
yeah, that's unusual. That's not a move that most teams make.
Yeah, but yeah, so Taveras was put on waivers today. Jake Berger's been optioned down. Like, they've got Blaine Krim playing first base. I have no idea who Blaine Krim is.
He's got some kind of interesting minor league numbers, so it'd be interesting to see if he's good.
He's been a career minor leaguer though up to this point. He's 28 years
Yeah, yeah.
old,
I'm not
making
expecting
his
like
major
big
league
things out
debut.
of him.
But yeah, it just
Obviously, like Jake Berger has more upside than Blaine Krim. And then they fired their hitting coach today, Donnie Ecker, who's regarded as one of the better hitting coaches around. He was part of the Giants' really good team a few years ago, and he's like a hitting guru. And they're moving on from him, and it makes sense because the Rangers' strength was supposed to be their offense, and it's definitely not been. Like, guys are not producing the way they were supposed to.
so question: why did they not bring up like Ezekiel Duran, Justin Foscue, some of these guys? Why did they, with all the moves they're making, are they bringing up some of their no name, not likely long term solution guys?
Uh, I don't know. Wait, is
Because
Ezekiel Duran in the minor leagues?
Duran's in the minors, Evan Carter's in the minors, but I think he's still kind of rehabbing, maybe.
He's not
Um,
rehabbing. He didn't make the team out of spring.
oh,
Yeah.
so they got Carter, Ezekiel Duran, Justin Foscue, Jonathan Ornelas, um, and then down in, oh, that's pitchers. Yeah, so those are all their position players on the 40 man that are in AAA. Like, and Jake Berger.
I think the reason is because some of the guys you mentioned have not produced in their opportunity, right? Because Ezekiel Duran has played for the Rangers. He's got 7 games. He did not get a hit in his 15 plate appearances. So they moved on from him. Carter couldn't make the team out of spring, striking out a ton, and I don't know what's up with him. It's
Or
I don't
Foscue.
know. Foscue, yeah, couldn't tell you.
Well, no, that's last year's numbers. Hold on. Never mind. Foscue at AAA is really good right now. He's got 4 home runs, a 306 average, 402 OBP, 481 slug, striking out 19% of the time and walking 14%. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see why they didn't swap Jake Berger for Justin Foscue.
Well, I
Foscue
guess
plays
like
first.
so they must be looking for something specifically for Foscue to do because he's been good in the minors before, right? He came to the majors and he went 2 for 42. So that's almost like he's got to show something beyond just AAA numbers to get the call back again.
Yeah, but I don't know what else you can do. I mean, he's hitting for more power than he had in years past. He's hitting for a higher average than he had in the minors in years past. The exception of complex league ball in 2024, where he hit 412. Literally
Yeah,
the best he's
I
ever
don't know.
been.
I can't answer the question, but I'm just trying to make the point that sometimes it goes beyond the minor league numbers for them to get
Yeah,
recalled.
I don't know. It just feels like, oh shoot, who is it? Chris, what's their GM's name? Chris.
Chris Young.
Yeah, Chris Young. It seems like he's missing the boat here because I don't really, unless you're going to give some of these other young guys a try, the team's not playing terribly well right now. So you might as well let your good prospects try it.
Both, yeah.
But whatever. That's why I'm not a major league GM, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, wow. This team is yeah, I'm surprised. I thought their offense would be really, really good. And Wyatt Langford's good. They got that going for them.
yeah. Well, and like I say the club's not playing well, like they're still right at about 500. Like they could be
Yeah.
much, much worse. But I don't know. I feel like if you're trying to spark something in this club, you got to make a big move. And sure, optioning Berger to reset, that might be something that is ultimately going to help set the team in the right direction. But you don't just send some of your better players down and bring up nobody.
Hey,
So
stop shading Blaine Krim.
Well, I'm mostly shading the fact that Leody Taveras is still in their depth chart,
Yeah.
even though he's on waivers now and no longer part of the club. So,
Well,
uh,
that may not be true, right? Uh, That might be the one where you can still play, and like a team
really?
could like maybe.
Outright waivers? Here, let me just Google this. MLB outright waivers. When a player is placed on outright waivers, the other 29 major league clubs have an opportunity to claim him. The claiming club assumes responsibility for the remaining money owed to the player who is placed on the new club's 40-man. If they clear it without being claimed, okay, they can be assigned to the minors. Players with more than 5 years of major league service time can reject an assignment to the minors, and players with more than 3 years of major league service time or who have previously been previously outrighted and reject the outright assignment in favor of free agency. So
But that says nothing of whether he can play for the team right now or not.
I don't think he can. I think this is essentially a DFA, but because he has 3 years of service time, he can decline to be sent to the minors and become a free agent. So I think that's what the deal is here with Leody.
Nope. I just read trade rumors. Tavares can continue playing for Texas until he's claimed, which differentiates the outright waiver process from a more standard designation for assignment. Okay,
Oh.
that's what I thought.
So basically it's the equivalent of just putting him on the trade block, or it's just until the 5-day waiver.
Well, it's not the
is
trade
up.
block. It's
Well,
whether
yeah, I
another
know,
team
but I
just
mean,
wants to take his deal.
well, yeah. I don't know. It's a weird situation.
It is, yeah. They're clearly trying to shake things up because it's been a little rough, unexpectedly for the offense.
Yeah.
Another team that's really struggling is the Orioles, and I think the Orioles have been probably the most disappointing team this year. They're sitting at like 13-20. That's probably last place in the division.
It very much is, yes.
And I guess the part that's not surprising is that their pitching, specifically starting pitching, has been horrible, like downright awful.
I mean, that's not really surprising to me given some of the guys
That's what I
they're
said.
missing.
I just said I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I do want to give you this little tidbit of information just for comparison's sake. So the Orioles are 13-20. There are two other teams that are 13-20. Do you know who they are?
The Angels
Correct.
and the Royals. They might
Incorrect. The Royals are actually above 500.
Be better. Oh, okay.
The Royals are 19-16. The Marlins are 13-20. So the Orioles, the upstart Orioles with a ton of upside and hype, are playing equivalent to the Miami Marlins and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim right now. That should tell you everything you need to know about if they are playing to expectation or no. And the answer would be or no in all caps. They have seen some production from a couple of their young guys. Jackson Holiday is finally starting to come around. He actually hit two home runs?
Yep, today.
Yeah.
First time in his career.
2 home runs today. And his numbers are starting to look a bit better. Still nothing incredible, but like Gunnar has not been nearly as good as he was last year. Seti Mullins is probably the star of the team right now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been great.
Yeah, but I don't know. But you're right though. Their pitching is really, really struggling. So they actually just activated Chase McDermott from the IL today and then optioned him down to the minors. which I think is an odd choice, seeing as they only have 4 men in their rotation. But
Yeah,
whatever.
they're pitch like I'm just looking at like Zach Eflin, who's been a pretty solid pitcher for a while. He's sitting at like an 11.8% strikeout rate, and I don't know what's going on with him. He's still got a
Well,
3 ERA
he has
somehow.
a
Is he
strained
injured?
lat.
Oh, okay, that's why.
So yeah, he's been on the IL since the 8th of April.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
he's been out of the picture. Grayson's out of the picture. Charlie Morton has been so bad that he's actually just been moved to the bullpen. Um, and then Tomoyuki Sugano is walking on water right now with a 3 ERA and a 5.08 FIP. So that's interesting.
yeah,
And then
this
Kyle Gibson he just made his first 2 starts this week, and the first one was horrible. He gave up, I think, like 10 or 11 runs in just a few innings. Uh, yeah, I don't see any saviors for this club. They're gonna struggle with pitching pretty much all year.
yeah, like Kay Povich and Dean Kremer both have a 5+ ERA, and I don't know. It's not looking good for them right now. Like they needed to re-sign Corbin Burns,
Yep.
and they didn't. And I think everyone saw what was probably gonna happen when that lack of bringing him back. But
even Corbin Burns wouldn't have saved this team, in my opinion. Like, it's
no,
just not enough.
no, it's not enough. But I do think that Corbin Burns would take this from a 13-20 to like a 16-17 team.
Yeah, and
Like
Corbin Burns hasn't even been himself, but that's kind of a different topic.
no, but I mean, just hovering around 500 in this division has you tied with basically the second through fourth place clubs. Like, if they had someone that could just get them 3 more wins in the period that we've already had, they would be in decent shape. But because they haven't been able to hit, and because they have no rotation at all, like this is an even worse version of 2 years or like last year's Giants, in my opinion. The Giants only had like 2 starters, Logan Webb and sometimes Jordan Hicks.
Yeah,
This is
we
worse
can't
than
even
that.
count like 2 starters on this team. Like, nobody
Yeah.
is really consistent or reliable at all.
Yeah, it's a very, very rough spot to be in. And Mark Elias has done a fairly decent job with this club in the last couple years, but it's all been on the lineup side. There's not really been any development or any free agent signings on the pitching side that have been able to do anything. Like the trade for Bautista and Cano is really the only thing he's done, it seems, on the pitching side.
Wait, they traded for Bautista?
Yeah, I thought that was the same trade, wasn't it?
What trade?
Oh no, Bautista was a free agent out of Miami. Sorry, Yenyer Cano
He was part of a trade, yeah.
and yeah, but there were 2 people that got traded to the
It was
Orioles.
Povich.
Oh, was it Kapovich?
I think, yeah, this was several years ago. Is that Jorge Lopez trade?
Yes.
With the Twins?
Yeah. For
Yeah.
some reason, I thought that was Felix Bautista, but
No, I don't think he was part of that trade.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, they brought in Corbin Burns and Eflin, so they've made some trades that I think were good. But yeah, you're right. The development of the young pitchers with like Grayson kind of stalling out with a lot of injuries. He still might be really good, but not available to the team right now.
Yeah. So it's wild to me that they optioned Chase McDermott, given they have nobody else to come out and start right now that's effective.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a bit bleak
yeah.
right now.
So it looks like they are still projecting Charlie Morton to be starting.
They just announced this week that he's moving to the bullpen.
Okay. So I'm curious who ends up getting the start on Wednesday then, because that was supposed to be his turn up in the order.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
guess we'll see.
Yeah. I feel like we got to end on a happier note. You got anything else you want to talk about?
Anything happier than
We were very
talking
negative on the Rangers and Orioles just a moment ago.
about? I want to give love to your guy that I hate because of the team that he plays for. And that is Pete Crow Armstrong.
Yeah,
This dude is playing out of his mind.
yeah.
Like
He's so confident right now.
he is not a power guy. He has 9 home runs. Like he is a contact speed, great defense. He is a 4-tool player. Period.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden he's found 9 home runs worth of power in
In the last
34
18
games.
No, the last 18 games more specifically. He had 0 home runs in the first 17, and now he has got 9 home runs in the last 18.
Dang.
So he had 2 homers on uh Friday night, and these were not like wall scrapers. These were bombs. Like they were crushed out to right field at American Family Field. I mean, like if this is real, and I'm not suggesting he's like a 30 or 40 homer guy, but if he's like a 20, and it seems very likely he's now going to be like a 20 homer guy this season, but if he's like a 25 homer guy going forward, then we're talking about an absolute superstar, like one of the best players in the league, MVP type. I mean, it's way too early to put those expectations on him at this point, but sometimes players surprise us by having more power than they were supposed to have as prospects or whatever. And I think that might be the case here. Like this guy, he's got some level of power that's beyond like the bare minimum.
Well, and he was a future 50 in game power and future 55 raw power. So like he was a guy that prospect reports did like. They actually thought that he had more power than he did a hit tool. I think they might have underrated his hit tool. And
they may have underrated his power.
Or they appropriately rated his power and he's just now made it to that future 50.
Yeah, that could be too.
So
and he's just on an absolute heater at the moment.
Yeah. But either way, like this kid is insane. And to think that his mom was the mom in what Little Big League?
Little Big League, yeah.
Just wild to me.
Yeah, yep.
Oh, he went to Harvard Westlake. I feel like I knew that.
Yep.
Huh. Was that Dylan Carlson's dad that? No, that wasn't Carlson. That was Flaherty's school, right?
Yeah, so Flaherty, Fried, and Giolito went to that school.
Yeah, okay.
They're kind of well known for their sports and also for their like acting. All the Hollywood.
That would explain why he went there for acting and then just happened to be good at baseball.
No, apparently PCA tried to like act in a play and he did not like it, so he kind of stuck to baseball. I think it's working out for him right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, but yeah, that's been one of the biggest breakouts I think of the year so far, and we'll see if he can keep it up.
I was gonna say, is there anybody who's like kind of similar level breakout wise this year?
Not really. I mean, if you look at just like let's look at the WAR leaderboard.
Perdomo, maybe.
Yeah.
Because Perdomo is 8th in the league in WAR. 5 home runs, 7 steals, 270, 382, 443. Like he's been incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, like everyone else up here, you kind of expect to be here, the exception of Carson Kelly. Carson Kelly being 11th in WAR does not make a whole lot of sense to me, but sure.
Apparently
whatever.
Carson Kelly studied Barry Bonds' swing and now he's playing like Barry Bonds.
Someone check for needle marks.
Yeah.
The heir apparent to Yadier Molina, Carson Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just happening a decade later.
Yeah. But no, I think Jung-Hoo Lee is probably the other guy that's kind of showing his breakout. But
All
But
right.
yeah, PCA, he's incredible.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and drop us a line or ask a question. We can answer that on a future episode, and we will talk to you next time.
Heck yeah, you can reach out and let us know your questions at getawaydaypod@gmail.com. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.